speakers. Very marvelous and interesting. The one thing that about your non-stop presentation, where I lost my post-lunch sleep by listening to you, it's more interesting. But one thing factor you have not highlighted is that globally what the feminist movement is highlighting according to the gender equality, that dismantling of the girl child birth, Fortisted Emperor in the laboratories. Are you in favor of burning them or dismantling them? Because the humanitarian variation is totally, which is comparing to the Homo sapiens egalitarianism. Today, barbaric, savageable things are coming up. APSA stands for arbitrarily forcing APSA, savageable at the rate of arbitrary. In the same context, coming to the Kashmir or anywhere, Kashmir to Kanyakumari and entire South Asia, are you in favor of against forticide and killing the girl child birth, dismantling, demonstrating, or like Genghis Khan or Aurangzeb, you want to burn such type of laboratories?
I think I understood the gist of your question to be about female feticide. Okay. Hello? Yes. Okay, so the sex ratio is something that as human rights activists and as reproductive rights activists is something we're very, very concerned about. Not only because of, what it says about our society, but also because of the implications that the sex ratio has for women in general. So that's definitely something that we work on. HRLN has a Supreme Court case right now that works to uphold the current law that makes any sort of sex determination in a laboratory, doing IVF or combining embryos before and determining the sex that way, or revealing the sex of a fetus to a couple before the child is born, illegal. And HRLN is working on that case. There's a big debate about whether or not that in itself is the right way to go about this, and whether or not that'll have any difference, and whether or not that law in itself is a violation of a couple's right to benefit from scientific progress, of a couple's rights to know what's going on with their body. So that's one whole conversation, is about the current law in India and about what laws we should use to try and remedy the sex ratio in India. And that's a very complicated discussion, and I think, the law should aim to make India a better place for women, but that's my opinion. So then on the other side, you have this whole conversation about a woman's individual reproductive autonomy and a couple's ability to make choices about what happens to their family. And that's where you come up with the right to abortion and the right to terminate a pregnancy. And they're very linked conversations, but it's important that we keep them as separate conversations. Because as you saw in the cases I outlined, you have cases like the case from Nepal, where this woman was about to have her 6th child, a very poor family. They did not want to have the child. They didn't have access to any way to prevent that pregnancy. And that's why the woman, that's why ultimately the Supreme Court of Nepal said that right to have an abortion was there as a medical procedure, and as also as a way for the woman to maintain her autonomy. So actually in the reproductive rights context, we don't use the term female feticide, because a fetus actually doesn't, under the law, and there are different moral conceptions of this and different religious conceptions of this, but under the law, a fetus actually doesn't have any rights. So we would be, HRLN is upholding on one hand the law that's aimed to reduce sex-selective abortion, but we also adamantly uphold a woman and a couple's rights under the law, both domestic and international, to terminate a pregnancy if that's the best decision for them, and to terminate that pregnancy in a healthcare facility that's acceptable, adequate, accessible, and provides quality care. And that's also there in various government schemes, including the National Rural Health Mission and the JSY scheme in India, and in other countries in the region. There's usually always an exception for women to have an abortion under certain circumstances. So yes, the sex ratio is something we're very concerned about, but at the same time, we can't let that conversation chip away at a woman's fundamental right to determine what happens with her body.